Okay, you can keep on talking. I'm not ready yet. So go ahead. All right. Mr. Anderson, you can come up too, please. Okay, hold on. All right, sorry. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing for July 12th, 2021. Can I get a roll, please?
Mr. Kurtz, absent. Mr. Strollo,
Here.
Mr. Natali, me, I'm here. Mr. Tedisco. Mr. Dawson is absent. Mr. Corderis. Mr. Linder. Mr. Bowman, absent. Mr. Mercado.
Here.
Mr. Anderson. Mr. Selmont.
Here.
Ms. Downs.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first order of business is a special permit application for the town of Cheshire for George Nottawa, 55 Railroad Avenue parking lot, Farmington Canal, Heritage Trail.
The special permit application of George Watney, Town of Cheshire, Connecticut, care of Kevin Grindle Barton, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, Lojudici, LLC, 41 Sequin Drive, Glastonbury, Connecticut, 06033, for construction of a parking lot with landscape rain garden to provide additional overflow parking for the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail property located at 55 Railroad Avenue, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 49, lot number 6 in an I-1 zone.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the applicant, the good town of Cheshire, requests that this hearing just remain open to enable us to handle our otherwise busy agenda until the July 26th meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving forward, the number 2, 3, and 4. You want to read them?
The continuation of the public hearing for earth removal, filling, or regrading permit of EG Home LLC, care of Anthony J. Fazzone Esquire, Fazzone, Ryan, and Matrudy LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, property located at Dickerman Road and I-691 is generally shown on Assessor's Map number 3, lot number 51, in an IC SDD zone. The continuation of the public hearing for the special permit application of EG Home LLC, care of Anthony J. Fazzone Esquire, Fazzone, Ryan, and Matrudy LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for a special development project residential within an ICSDD property located at Dickerman Road and I-691, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 3, lot number 51, in an ICSDD zone. Lastly, the continuation of the public hearing for application for approval of interchange special development project of EG Home LLC, care of Anthony J. Fazone Esquire, Fazone Ryan and Machuti LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut 06410, for a residential development on parcel 7, Stonebridge Crossing, in an established interchange special development district. Property located at I-691 and Dickerman Road, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 3, lot number 51, in an ICSDD zone.
Thank you. Mr. Bowman is here. Yes. Yeah. Our Jay will step down. Okay, so Mr. Anderson can stand. That's me. I left the lights on. Okay, figures.
So for the record, Mr. Bowman is here and is
I'll take.
recusing himself.
I could get a jump start later. Yeah, I got a tow truck. Okay, so going forward,
For the record, Anthony Fazone representing the applicant. With me tonight is Darren Overton and from SLR, as well as Dave Sullivan for SLR. Dave did the traffic report. At the conclusion of the last meeting, we had completed our presentation and answering of questions. And I believe some of the commissioners wanted time to review reports and other materials that we had submitted. We don't have any additions to our presentation to make. And we're here to answer any questions about the report.
there's one thing that I read in the minutes, and Maryland just no. I know that Mance Auto was it's MANTZ, and I was reading through the minutes. It was MANCE. Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to Mance Auto. I know that they're bordering property or whatever.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Darren, am I correct that there
Mr.
are no
Desco?
current changes to the plans? Or did you do you want to explain those? Sorry, that Darren tells me there have been some revisions that he'll explain.
Good evening, everyone. Darren Overton from SLR, licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. We did submit a comment response letter to the comments we had received just before the last public hearing, and there were some minor revisions to the plans associated with that. The majority of the changes were related to some additional soil testing that was asked for by the reviewing engineer. So we went out and we conducted 4 more test pits on site and 3 more permeability samples in the stormwater basins that they were questioning the design on. The point was to verify some of the depths of the deep sands and gravels out there, and also verify separation to the water table. So the information that we gathered did confirm that. We believe we have adequate separation to water table. We looked at the various layers. There's some fine sandy loams over the top of gravels, and we confirmed that the bottom of these basins are down into the highly permeable sands and gravels, and we'll have a high percolation rate, even though we haven't necessarily designed for those that in the stormwater management. We are taking advantage of the infiltration rates, high infiltration rates that we expect and what we've tested for in part of the soil testing out there. They also looked for some clarifications on and some more detail on the roof leader collection system, which we did provide some inverts and more detail there. They also asked us to verify there's a few drainage design issues with velocities that they want us to verify, which we did provide computations to verify that. And per the request of the fire department, we added a fire hydrant out in front at the proposed intersection. So that was the majority of the changes. It was really mostly cleanup related to the remaining few comments that were left after the end of the last public hearing. So if there's any further questions for me, I'd happy to address them now.
Any commission members? Mr. Desco.
I don't know if this, I have a question. I don't know if it's for Mr. Overton in particular. Maybe 2, but certainly 1. We received at the last meeting a report of archaeological characteristics, which had been prepared several years ago for when we acted on the proposed shops at Cheshire. And I believe that you addressed this, Mr. Fazone, briefly during your presentation. last time. I've had a chance to look it over. I didn't read the whole thing in detail, but I did read over the summary and the recommendations. I just thought I would try to clarify for the record that in fact, the applicant does intend to follow the summary and recommendations in this report in terms of determining whether there's archaeological sites of any significance.
So yes, we do have a copy of that information. And we also have copies of some additional work that the prior developer, WS Development, did on the property. As part of our state and federal permitting, is screening for the State Historic Preservation Office that we have to do. So we'll need to get a sign off from State Historic Preservation as part of the ongoing permitting for the project. So we are following through on those recommendations, and there will be further review by SHPO.
Okay, thank you. And one question for Mr. Fazone. I noticed that there's no connection between, thank you, Mr. Overton. There's no connection between the housing project that we're talking about now and the other parts of the project that are commercial, and previous applications have had connections and roads and driveways between them. Is there any reason why that's not been done this time?
Well, there is. The last time there was a bridge involved in the crossing of the 10-Mile River. And basically, the cost of that proved to be prohibitive. And the plans for what would be the east side of the river can stand on their own. And there will be at some point in time a proposal there for additional residential units that will complement the commercial development on the east side of the river. But
Mr. Mikado.
Will there be any kind of pedestrian crossway or bridge so that people in that area can go to the stores?
is there a cross? There's a walking trail that goes across. Yes. I believe it utilizes the Stonebridge culvert.
Mr. Talley. Just follow up from last meeting also, and I'm sorry we don't have the map in front of us, but when for the main entrance, when you drive in, you get to the roundabout, and then the other street goes down. We had asked a question about a trail or some kind of walkway going from the end of that up to the main entrance for kids, so they don't have to walk all the way around and get on the bus, since the buses won't be able to go in there. I don't know if that was addressed at all.
They did agree to do that. Yep. I don't think it's been shown on the plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Lemon? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the fire department has requested that the applicant put mountable curbing on the roads, and they've agreed to do that as well. So,
They agreed to do that, all
Yes.
right? Okay. And there's no other testimony coming in on this? We can close this here.
no, Mr. Chairman, that's it.
Okay, we're gonna close this hearing. So that's 2, 3, and 4. But this will not be voted on this evening. Okay, moving on to 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
The continuation of the public hearing for zone map change petition of Lovely Development, Inc., care of Anthony J. Fazone Esquire, Fazone Ryan and Merchuti, LLC, Toontown Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410. From R40 to age-restricted overlay zone, property located at 648 Wallingford Road is generally shown on Assessor's Map number 66, lots number 13 and 14 in R40 zone. Legal description available for review in the Planning Office, 84 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, and on the town website under virtual documents. The continuation of the public hearing for application for preliminary development plan of Lovely Development, Inc., care of Anthony J. Fazone Esquire, Fazone Ryan and Merchuti, LLC, Toontown Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for an age-restricted planned residential development property located at 648 Wallingford Road, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 66, lots numbers 13 and 14 in an R40 zone. The continuation of the public hearing for the earth removal, filling, and regrading permit of Lovely Development, Inc., care of Anthony J. Fazone Esquire, Fazone Ryan and Merchuti, LLC, Toontown Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410. Waiver request per section 25.3.2, subsection 9, under section 25.5 for an age-restricted planned residential development, property located at 648 Wallingford Road, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 66, lots numbers 13 and 14 in the R40 zone. The continuation of the public hearing for a special permit application of Lovely Development, Inc., care of Anthony J. Fazone Esquire, Fazone Ryan and Ricciuti, LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for an age-restricted planned residential development pursuant to Section 43.4 of the zoning regulations, property located at 648 Wallingford Road, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 66, lots numbers 13 and 14 in an R40 zone. And lastly, the continuation of the public hearing for the final development site plan application of Lovely Development, Inc., care of Anthony J. Fazone Esquire, Fazone Ryan and Ricciuti, LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for an age-restricted planned residential development pursuant to Section 43.4 of the zoning regulations, property located at 648 Wallingford Road, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 66, lots number 13 and 14 in an R40 zone.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I have some comments from the
Yes.
Cheshire Fire Department. I'd like to read those in.
Thank you very much.
Dated July 12th, 2021, to Planning and Zoning from Jack Kasner, Mike Kozlowski, 648 Wallingford Road. The fire department has reviewed the above application for the planning and zoning process. We recommend the following comments and stipulations. 1, all main roadways internal to the development will be 28 feet wide. The applicant has agreed to this and indicated on the latest revised submission. 2, mountable curbing will be provided throughout the development. And 3, fire hydrant locations will be determined by the fire chief or his designee. And 4, the emergency access will be constructed of non-plastic pavers made of concrete or similar material to be approved by the fire chief prior to installation. That's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Fazone?
Again, for the record, my name is Anthony Fazone. I'm an attorney here in Cheshire with the law firm of Fazone, Ryan, and Ricciuti, representing the applicant. This application was heard in a prior public hearing, and as a result of that, comments from commission members and members of the public, changes have been made to the plan. And we feel that the changes and the plans that you've received with those changes meet the preliminary plan and development requirements. However, they most likely do not meet, and there hasn't been enough detail, because in the important aspect, the separate access for emergency access has only recently been worked out with the fire department. So I'm going to ask, we're prepared to go forward with our presentation tonight, but as a result of that, I'm going to ask that this public hearing be kept open so that we can present the more detailed plans for the final plan of development. Also, I have a letter with that request, and also the letter indicates that the applicant is granting the time limit that the commission is facing, concluding the hearing in 35 days, extending that to the 26th of July, which would be the date of your next meeting. In addition to the changes of the plans, late this afternoon, we received a 5-page letter from a member of the public raising a good number of questions about the application, and I was just handed a memorandum of law concerning the application, and we would need time to respond to those.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to give Mr. Volker the letter.
Mr. Natale has a question for you, Mr. Fazone.
So it's more for Mr. Volker. So, Bill, we have in our documentation the mandatory action date of 9/12. And I think that the first public hearing that was supposed to take place was delayed or requested that we didn't have it at the applicant's request.
Right.
So when you say that you requested for that to go through the 26th of this month, Bill, what's the date that we have to?
By him requesting and essentially consenting to the extension, it doesn't do anything to, the timeline is not affected by it. You'll still have 65 days from the conclusion of the hearing to make a decision. I can't look at the calendar and give you a date right
Okay,
now.
but
you-
even, but I'm
yeah,
saying,
so-
even with the delay at the request of the applicant, we're still have to close the public hearing by the next meeting?
Yeah, it creates no procedural due process problems for you by him requesting and consenting to it. He can do that. You can't extend automatically. You can only do it at his request or consent, which is what he's doing here
But
tonight.
I think what I'm
So-
trying to say is the time between when the hearing was supposed to start and the delay requested by the applicant,
Mhm.
that's figured into
It's all
the,
legal. Yeah, he's okay.
Okay, Mr. Fazon.
There were several issues that were raised that don't directly relate to the plans. One member of the public indicated that the sanitary sewer capacity of the plant was exhausted or almost exhausted, and wanted to just go over with the commission that we have received feasibility approval. It's a matter of public record that the plant is designed for 4 million gallons a day. And currently, again, it's a matter of public record published by the WPCA. Currently, the plant is running between 2.8 to 3 million gallons a day. In our feasibility application, we asked for 8,240 gallons per day. The second comment, a second comment that was made was that that I think basically claiming that the town regulation, which allows restricting the housing for people at age 55 with different variations, was not legal, that under the Fair Housing Act, you couldn't prohibit children. The Fair Housing Act was modified in 1995 to create the Housing for Older Persons Act, and it permitted these types of developments if at least 80% or more of the facilities were restricted to age 55 and over. The Cheshire regulation says it has to be 100%. And I have a number of copies of a summary of the Fair Housing Act and the Housing for Older Persons Act. All, I think the question was related to that. Mr. Selmont requested that if we could provide a model of a declaration, and we did do that. That's for a project that Lovely Development is in the process of doing in Southington. And if you were to refer to Article 10 of that declaration, it shows where the property is subject to the restrictions that are required to make a property eligible for the age 55 active adult communities. With that, I'd like to have Andrew Quirk come up and go over what the changes to the plans are.
Absolutely. I think last time we were in this area was probably best if everybody had. And I'll reference the sheet numbers. I'll call out the sheet numbers. Good evening, Chair, Commission members. My name is Andrew Quirk, professional engineer and principal with Kratzer Jones and Associates with offices in Southington, Connecticut. I'd like to actually begin tonight with the conventional layout, because I know there were some questions the last time on the conventional subdivision layout, which is, it's Quirk, Q-U-I-R-K. So actually, before we get into the application before you, I wanted to start with the alternative that needs to be provided as part of the regulations to show a conventional subdivision layout, which is shown on sheet Z1. Just because I know there were some questions on that, and I figured I'd try to address those first and then move into the actual proposal. So on the conventional subdivision layout, what we provided, I also included on the subdivision layout plan conceptual layout of the houses, the drives, and the locations. There were some questions as to what that subdivision would actually look like. And that's what's on the color board here before you, showing that conventional subdivision layout. Also, previously I was trying to show what the open space would look like with an aerial image, and I think some of that was lost in that. On the board here, the open space is clearly shown in the green dedicated area of 6.1 acres, along with the 16 lots, both with access with public roads from Wallingford Road and then houses off of Talmadge Road as well. So I make sure that they're clear on the conventional would be in terms of open space access and what that would look like in terms of house, drive, roadway layout. Correct. Correct. So now with the revised proposal before you on sheet S1 that
Yep.
shows best the site layout plan, we've made a number of pretty significant changes to the proposal after hearing comments and feedback from staff, the commission, and the public. We've made a number of changes, and that's the layout that you have before you. And as was presented, we've taken this through to satisfy the preliminary design level. And then after the feedback from tonight, we would be completing that final design in time for the meeting on the 26th. Most significant with the changes, the number of units was reduced from 40 to 34, while we increased the individual unit size to 1760 square feet, plus a 2-car garage. And then we're also showing on all the units the optional sunroom as well, in addition to that footprint. This is Unit D that's shown in the architectural layout. The total proposed bedrooms has also been reduced to 85, with 50% of the units having 2 bedrooms and the remainder having 3 bedrooms. The open space has also been increased. It's shown on sheet S2 of your set, and it's shown in green on the plan that's here in green. As the common land area by Whispering Oaks Homeowners Association, that was increased from 14.8 acres to 15.7 acres. The setback along the easterly property line, which would be the rear of the properties along Charles Drive, was increased. The requirements that you have, the regulations require at least a minimum of 25 feet to the property line. We previously had 27, and we've now increased that to 38 feet from any part of any of the units, including that optional sunroom, to the property line. With that additional buffering along that line, again, the existing stone wall and the mature trees that are there would remain as was before. And we have revised the plantings in that area from white pines, which can be subject to disease and also not having strong growth at eye level, to Atlantic cedars. And we would, those are shown as proposed to supplement the existing vegetation to provide a full screen along that easterly property line. The emergency access has been changed. We worked very hard with the fire department for alternatives to having the access to Charles Drive. And we are now showing no access to Charles Drive at all, emergency or developmental access at all through Charles Drive. Rather, there's an emergency access out to Wallingford Road that is to the far east. It would be 2 paved wheel paths with a grass paver section between them. And we would certainly comply with the stipulation that was read earlier about the pavers. We were showing a plastic paver, but we would comply to have that changed to a concrete block paver instead of plastic. That access would be the emergency access in addition to the full development and fire access, which is further to the west. So there'd be 2 access points from Wallingford Road. We redesigned the, we would also still have an emergency gate that was previously shown on the Charles Drive side. That would be along Wallingford Road at that emergency access location. The roadway system has also been changed in conjunction with fire and other comments. The roadway width was increased to 28 feet for the main roads. We also changed the sidewalk location based on comments from the last time. We previously had the sidewalk on the easterly side of the roadway. We moved that to the westerly side of the roadway, so it'll also interconnect well with access to the open space out to Talmadge Road. It does still connect to the visitor parking spaces. There's 3 locations, one closer to Wallingford Road, one in the middle of the project, and then one towards the northeasterly turnaround gazebo area. The sidewalk system would interconnect all of those between the homes and the open space to have that pedestrian network. The curbing is, presently we're showing this mountable 4-inch park curbing and turnaround areas that do accommodate the fire truck access. That's all shown on sheet S3 that shows the fire truck movement throughout the entire site. In addition to the plantings along the easterly buffer to Charles Drive, we're showing significant plantings along Wallingford Road. The first unit is 102 feet from the right-of-way of Wallingford Road. It would be another 10 feet to the pavement of Wallingford Road. Also, we previously had 2 units that were close at that setback. Now there's only 1. And so that whole area would be landscaped or with a proposed berm, a mix of deciduous and evergreen plantings to provide full screening from Wallingford Road to the development. Also, this change reduces the inland wetland impact. The direct impact to inland wetlands did not change, but the upland review area, the 50-foot upland review area that they hold, that impact was reduced by 1,493 square feet or 13%. And that is behind units, the even units behind units 22 to 32. Those were moved a little bit further away from the wetlands and just made into more of a linear pattern that reduced that impact. And we did have a meeting with inland wetlands last week, and they approved that or maintained the same approval with the determination that there was no significant change, since it was all a reduction there were no further impacts to the wetlands. So I think a lot of these changes, again, were in response to comments from the commission and the public to reduce the number of units, the location of the units further away from Charles Drive, eliminating the access to Charles Drive while still meeting safe fire access for the project, and looking for feedback tonight on that as we move towards the final design. At this point, I think we're going to turn it over to traffic.
Yes.
Unless you'd rather do questions now or wait till the end.
I would say, let me see if the commission members have any questions. Okay, they have a couple questions
Sure.
first, okay? Go ahead.
I had submitted a couple questions, so I just want to get some clarity. So, on the berms on Wallingford Road,
Yes.
what kind of vegetation is going to be there? How high is it going to be? I know that there's been a lot of comparisons like Richmond Glen, and obviously Richmond Glen, you can't see anything.
Right.
But realistically, what types of plantings and how high are they going to be? And what are people going to see from Wallingford Road?
So we're proposing a 4-foot-high landscape berm. That would be the mounding. And then the plantings on top. On sheet S1, it does call out some of the deciduous trees. So I don't know the species offhand, but I believe we had a mix of dogwoods and Bradford pears, and then spruce for evergreen plantings intermixed. So it would be tree and shrub plantings for both eye level and more mature tree screening. Also, there would be the decorative gate at the far southeast corner where the emergency access is. And then, of course, the opening where the main entrance is. But other than that, the idea is to create a green screen with that 100-foot setback. So it's got both the depth and the screening to reduce any visibility from Wallingford Road, aside from the emergency access and the main access.
Okay, and the properties on Charles. Previously, I did see I think it's a white vinyl fence separating. I don't see that on the updated plan. Is it still there?
Our thought was that the cedars would do a better job of providing, now that we have the distance to fit the plantings, that would be a more natural and better looking screening through that area to supplement the trees that are there are pretty mature and large. So we're just trying to supplement at the eye level screening, and given the distance, that would be a better screening. We're open to the fence, but we thought long-term it would be a more natural and better screening now that we have additional distance to accommodate that.
Gotcha. And I see there's another change. So I think that, when we hear from the public, it's more up to them because,
Yes.
it's their properties that are affected or their view from the yards that are affected. But
Yes.
bear with me because I have just a couple more things here. Let's see. We talked about the sidewalk. Thank you for moving that. On the easement going across Mr. Bolden's property at 369 Charles, I know that you're not going to have a gate there. You're not going to have the cement or anything, but some of the public last time asked about the possibility of going through there to connect to the sanitary sewer system. Is that still an option? Is that still out there?
Well, with this project, the sewer would be brought up close to that property line, but not built through the easement. So there would be there's no proposed construction within that easement.
Okay,
Now,
but
the easement would be in favor of the town.
Okay.
So whether the town would work to extend that sewer to Charles Drive, I can't say. It's there for the town to extend it to address, there are some issues with septic systems in the area to extend the sewer to address those, but it would not be part of this project.
gotcha. So if the town wanted to do it down the road, they could. There's nothing prohibiting them?
That I know of. No.
Okay. Let's see. And I think that's it for now for me. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I have a plan here, shows proposed vinyl fence. So I don't see it's been eliminated. My plan shows it. So
I'm looking at
That's
S1.
one,
I
isn't
don't
it?
see it.
this one dated July 1st. Our data receipts July 1st. I got a vinyl fence on plan right here.
Right, we had talked about changing that to cedars. They still
Okay.
show the fence, but the discussion was on the final design that would be more.
Mr.
Well,
Desko has a
Jeff,
question.
you said you couldn't see it, but there's a note. It says proposed vinyl fence. It's on one of the lots.
Bill, I apologize. It's down there on the left
Yeah.
underneath. I do see
I
that.
I forgive you this time.
But so if it is on the plans, then now you're talking about eliminating it. So
I think that's part of what the thing with the final design is we'd like to hear, now that we have the additional space, I think the cedars would do a better job, be a more natural look. We would address that with the final design.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Desko.
Very briefly, so at this point, there will be no use of the easement to Charles Drive at all.
That's
I mentioned that simply because after the last hearing, a member of the public made a brief comment to me about that. That was off the record, so it's something I should disclose here, but it's irrelevant now since there's going to be no easement, no use of that easement at all. I think you've answered some of my other questions. You mentioned some more about the screening between the project and the homes on Charles Drive, because I haven't been in any of the yards certainly, but I've driven down Charles Drive a few times. And from what you can see from the road, there do seem to be fairly mature trees
Yes.
between the backyards of the people on Charles Drive and the project. And you're proposing now additional trees behind those?
That's correct.
I mean, is it the sense then that the project would not be seen at all really from Charles Drive, from the people's backyards?
That would be the concept, would be to add enough supplemental plantings at eye level so that it's not visible at eye level. Right now, there's a lot of mature trees that have a lot of growth up higher. Most of those mature trees are also intertwined with that stone wall that's right on the property line. Those would all remain. But we would be supplementing with the cedars to provide a screening at eye level year round. That's the other thing, is most of those are deciduous trees. To provide more of a year-round screening at eye level.
Does the project border any other houses on Talmadge Road or any place else that there needs to be screening?
We are also showing plantings on the westerly line behind units, between units 2 and 14. That's right now a large open lawn area that also abuts the neighbor's property is also open. So we're providing there's no trees in that area now. We would be planting in that area. Other than that, none of the other existing homes are in close proximity to the development.
Okay, so
Those would be the
for all
two.
the homes that are in close proximity, you're trying to provide, you're
Absolutely.
providing screening.
Okay, Mr.
Okay, thank you.
Mercado has a
Thank you.
question. Mr. Mercado.
Something in development like this, I don't know, do you provide place for snow placement when they're plowing out all the driveways? Is there an area or areas for putting that snow?
It's a great question. Part of the redesign was to create a turnaround area near unit 17 to 19. So that provides some storage there. That's a curbless island. So it also, if they needed to move it to that area, not having curbing and being able to place some of that there. And then also towards the northeast portion, that large area past the visitor parking area between units 26 and 31. Those would be two areas that would provide a lot of storage area for that.
Okay, and this question might be more for Bill. With the reduction of units, I know at one point it was discussed that with the 40 units, that would lock out any building on any of the open space. With this reduction of 6 units, does that allow possible building in the future or not?
No, I think constructively, be extremely difficult to do that. The remaining property, as you know, is probably the most environmentally constrained on this site. Be very, very difficult to try to now carve out building lots against some minor change in the acreage requirement. They're not proposing that. They're using the full acreage that they're allowed to and saying we could build 40, but we're only going to build 36, and reserving no right for further, division of that property. I would say to you, the only way they could do it would be some constructive math, and as if you and the Wetlands Commission thought it was a good idea. So there would be nothing that would come as of right from that. Very, very difficult to do.
So the answer is yes?
Okay, thank you.
So, Bill, you said it's restrictive but not impossible. So at the last hearing, I brought up and asked Attorney Fazone if they would be willing to put a deed restriction on there, saying that they could not build on there. And Attorney Fazone, I don't want to speak for you, but I believe that you said, yes, the applicant would be willing to put a deed restriction. So no houses could be built on that Talmadge roadside. Is that still the case with the reduction?
The applicant is willing to put a restriction. This will be a condominium development. So once it's declared, and if you look at the configuration, it's virtually impossible to go back and build there. It's also mostly wetlands, and that would further restrict it. But in any event, as part of the declaration, the applicant would limit the number of units to the 34 that are shown and would not reserve any future development rights.
So the deed restriction is going to be put on there that in the future, no houses can be built on that property bordering Talmadge.
Yes, if
Okay, Mr. Selman had a question.
Yeah, just going back to the S1, these trees, these little asterisks, this is accurate. It's a combination of the existing buffer, and then you're adding some in the corners and whatnot.
That's correct.
All right. And then and this might be for Attorney Fazone, but with the HOA declaration, the unit owners, 55-year-old individual may have a spouse or other occupant residing with himself who must, however, be age 18 or older. Could that cause, would it be allowed, let's say, have grandma buying the place or living there, she's over 55, and then have son or daughter there, and then their 2 kids or whatever? How does that restrict school-age kids at that point?
the Cheshire regulation, I believe, is no one under 21 can live there.
Okay, and 22.
But
So you
there
have to
must
come up to the
always,
podium.
there must always be an age 55 person in there.
Right, but it could be age 55 plus.
Plus, yeah. If there's a spouse that is under age 55, and the person's age 55 dies, the spouse can remain.
Yeah, I saw that, and that's reasonable. The other thing with the Fair Housing Act, you said this was written in 1995. I think somebody from the public alluded to the fact that there was some kind of judicial precedent or something that changed the act down the way.
I'm not aware of it.
Okay,
There may be something in the legal memorandum that we received this evening, but I'm not aware that
Okay.
there's been challenges to that.
okay. And you're going from 40 units, and I'm sorry if I'm bouncing around here. You're going from 40 units to 34, which, is nice. But originally the plan was a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, and now it's a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. Is that correct, or
No.
is it always?
There's always 2 and 3.
No, I believe the original plan was submitted with all 3 bedrooms.
Okay,
And then your regulations require that 50% be, make sure I'm stating it properly, I believe 50% have to be 2 bedrooms.
okay,
Let me just make sure. Correct. The regulations require that at least 50% are maximum 2-bedroom units, and we would comply with that regulation.
okay,
So with the 34, it would be 17 2-bedroom homes and 17 3-bedroom homes.
okay.
The total of 85 bedrooms.
And although you've gone down in number of units, has the total finished square footage gone up or changed?
I do have that updated on sheet S1. There's a, in the bottom left corner, there's both the proposed building coverage, impervious coverage. So previously the building coverage was 91,200. And now I believe, I don't have that number in front of me, but it's on the plans that you have. I believe it's 87.
Okay, so there was a reduction in impervious.
There was a slight
surface.
reduction in building coverage and impervious.
Okay, thank you.
Revised plans show revised proposed building coverage of 81,838 square feet.
Yep, from
And a
91,000.
total impervious of 173,928.
And that was previously 178. So they both came.
The impervious was 173,928.
Are there any other commission members? Okay, Mr. Linder.
At the last meeting, I don't recall who brought this up, but there was I believe an estimate of the average selling price of the units. 419,000 sticks in my mind for the starting price.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. Mark Lovely, President with Lovely Development, with offices at 710 Main Street, Plantsville. Average square footage now will be about 1,760 square feet. Starting range will be in the 459 range with the new home plans that we're going to do being a little bit larger.
And in the old plan, I think, was it correct in saying?
419.
419.
Exactly. And it was 1,444 square feet before.
Okay,
So
that's
we
what
are
I
going
thought.
back.
So there's roughly 200 to 300 square feet larger units.
Correct. Correct. Also on the children living in the homes, we just did 30 of these in Stellington in 2 different developments. Our average age of the customer is probably in their high 60s to low 70s. 10 of them being single occupancies. And there has been no children. It's even 18 or any children that has lived in any of them. Yep. So
Thank you.
If you're going to speak, you have to come to the podium, please. Thank you.
thank you. Chris?
Go ahead, Mr. Picano.
So this is another question for Bill on the children under 18. I know our regs say that you can't have them under 18. Is there any way that we would allow for hardships? Say there's a divorce in the family and they want to keep the kids in the
Regulations
schools.
provide
Hold
no-
on. They want to
yeah.
keep the children
Yeah,
in the school system in Cheshire. Would could we find a way to allow that?
only if you amended your regulations.
The documentation filed on the land records also state that nobody under 18 can be put in. That's the regulation of the condo board to be able to actually enforce also.
Okay. Any other commission members? Okay, I'd like to go to the public. Going to give everybody a chance to come up and ask questions.
We have traffic. There were questions about traffic.
I'd like to have them ask questions about the development before we get into traffic and then come back to traffic. And I know we're keeping it open, but I know everybody's going to antsy a little bit. So I know they want to ask some questions. So I'm going to allow them to ask a few questions first. Okay. Come on up, sir. We'll need your name and address for the record, please.
Hello. Yeah, this is Mark Fenity, F as in Frank, ENAUGHTY at 826 Wallingford Road.
Yep.
We've been a resident there since 2010. And Cheshire in general since 1987. I have a couple of questions and other people may have these as well. So I don't want to dominate this. And this may have been covered and I apologize because I haven't seen any of the virtual documents. So again, I apologize. I would like to get a sense of how long will the entire build out take? Let's assume it's a 34 unit build out. Approximately, are we looking at 2 years or 3 years?
We're going to
Trying to
have
get a
you
sense-
ask the question. Then what we'll do is have everybody go and then they'll take the answer,
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. So I do have a question about
So you
that.
wanna know how the build out.
duration, the overall
Okay.
duration of the build out, trying to get a sense of the impact on Wallingford Road and that general vicinity of the anticipated truck traffic in and out. In particular, I know the engineer discussed last time the soil removal and how apparently there was expected to be very little soil removal.
Mhm.
But I'm trying to square that with basements. And are these going to be built on slabs or basements? Obviously, if they're built on slabs, much less soil removal, I would expect. But if you're building basements, I would expect a lot of soil removal. So I'm trying to get a sense of that. And I think a lot of the folks here would like to get a sense of that because we do have a lot of traffic on Wallingford Road heading down into the Wallingford direction.
Okay.
Bear with me. The other is really trying to get a sense of this, and I think a lot of people are as well, the whole age restriction thing. And maybe these are a couple of questions that can be brought together. Let's say there's a 55-year-old person who buys the property, 55 and over.
There's other age restriction houses in Cheshire or developments like this
Yeah,
that have the same kind of rules.
Yeah.
And we do have regulations for that.
yeah.
So if you want, you could look that up on.
Okay, I might. Let me
okay.
just get the question into
Okay.
the record.
Yep.
My question is a 55-year-old person required to merely own the property, or is the 55-plus year person required to reside on the property? And I think maybe that question was answered. But then can the person rent it out to other people?
Okay.
You know, we're trying to anticipate, you know, are we going to see Quinnipiac students coming in and renting the property and having parties on Friday and Saturday and
Unless they're
Sunday night?
55.
And maybe Wednesday. Well, unless grandma is able to have her,
Back to school.
unless her grandma is able to allow her grandchild, 22, to be in there with 2 or 3 roommates. Got to think flexibly, because we were all young once. We thought very flexibly when we were really young. We're like, wait, we can make that work. And then really, who ensures that age restrictions are met? Ultimately, does it require a complaint by another resident of the development?
It's an
to-
association, so that
or
would be
the-
regulated.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're self-regulating.
hmm
Okay, so I guess, yeah. And then lastly, minor thing, I would say, stay away from Bradford pears. They've been identified as invasive in a number of states and municipalities around the country. Yeah, they're really pretty when they're in flower. They look like a big white lollipop, but we know they're very fragile, and they break, and they require a lot of maintenance. So, and why introduce invasive things in? Because you can see them, they're growing behind the library. Every time those things drop, more trees grow.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Hi, my name is Richard Smith, SMITH. I've lived at 353 Charles Drive for 30 years. And my questions are for Andrew. On the map, you'll see Cynthia Smith, that's towards the end. And what we're having is a problem with an invasive species of, I don't know if you call it kazoo, some people call it mile-an-hour weed, but it crawls up the trees and it chokes the trees, and they're all dying behind our house. So the question to Andrew would be, if you plant more trees, is that going to happen to those trees? I mean, it's great for the firewood. I love it, but is it just going to happen to the next trees? And the other thing I wanted to ask him is, right now the drainage and a heavy rain comes through the back of our yard. You can see in a 208 map that there was a dirt track back there for a little while, and that change in soil kind of brought the water over. So when they developed this, where would the drainage go? Can you answer that, Andrew?
Well, no, sir. We're going to try and get all the questions, and then
Oh, okay.
yeah, we're going to try and get all the questions and then go after
Okay,
that.
okay. But the
Okay.
drainage would go in and then down out that way? So that would solve my problem then. All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Hi, Michelle Fredericks, Fredericks, 36 Carroll Drive. Is it just questions, or can I make a statement too? Michelle,
It'd just be questions.
just questions.
Well,
Okay.
for the applicant, or I mean, if you want to make a quick statement, that's fine also.
Okay, so real quick statement first is that I'm a lifelong Cheshire resident. I moved from the south end of town to off of Talmadge because of the quietness and the acreage. We were told it's so much acreage per house. When we moved, we put our shed over, and because of variances, it had to get moved over, which cost us a fortune. And that's one of the reasons we moved there, to get off the busy way. Talmadge has gotten a lot busier over the years. How are you going to prohibit as much traffic as all these homes are going to do? Everybody walks down Talmadge with their kids, with their animals. It's as it is now, we almost get hit. How are you going to keep 3 cars per house from creating such a traffic disaster that we have right now, from creating the accidents? And as you know, as town members, council, there's a ton of accidents on Talmadge and 68. This influx of traffic is going to be such a cluster that I am petrified now to even think about all these cars and to be walking there with my grandson. And then the water level, I know the Inland Wetlands Committee has looked at this, but on Carroll Drive, we were told it's a high water table. Half the houses on our street flood just from the rain the past week. And I know the third house in on Talmadge from Wallingford, my friends were going to buy it and they didn't buy it because of the water table inside the house, of the water lines. So how can you guarantee that these homes are not going to flood and not going to create a problem for all the other homes in the area? I mean, it scares me, and my value of my home is going to go down with when you have a cluster of condos. I mean, would you want this in your backyard? Would Attorney Fazzone want this in his backyard? I don't think so. I mean, this is a residential neighborhood, and it scares me that value of my home is going to drop. And that's pretty much it. I'm afraid of all this. It's just too many homes for this area. This is a residential, beautiful area. And to have condos built where people have their homes and families and love the quietness of it. And you can have people that are under 55 living in these homes. I mean, I see what it is now with the kids racing up and down. I just can't even imagine this being a good thing for this town. And I can't imagine as council members that you would want this to be in a residential neighborhood. Because I know you would not want this in your home, in your backyard. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Laura Clark, 635 Wallingford Road. I just have a question, kind of goes along the whole flooding theme that we've been hearing recently. What's the plan? I guess this would be for the engineer, for the water management. So right in front of my house and a couple of my neighbors' houses are these like basins for stormwater. And if you look on the GIS of the town of Cheshire, you'll see that there's this one pipe and it basically goes down and it ends, and the rest of the water just goes through this swale that pretty much ends in my yard, especially recently, but even not recently. I mean, it's always wet. So I was just wondering what the plan was to address that, because this is definitely going to affect that more. And when it freezes, forget it.
Mr.
Ice
Bowman.
is on my driveway. Yes.
Do you want to submit that to the record? Okay. Just give that to Bill, please.
Sure. And everything she said.
Okay,
Hi, good
name and
eve-
address for the record, please.
Hi, good evening. I'm Andrea Renzoni Bassetta, 315 Sir Walter Drive. I'd like to present the same concerns that the other two ladies, I don't know
Yes.
their names.
Yes, could you hear spelling,
I'm
please?
sorry, Renzoni Bassetta, Renzoni Bassetta, 315 Sir Walter Drive, Cheshire, Connecticut.
Okay.
I just would also like to talk about the same issues that the other two ladies, I don't know their names. I've lived in my property over 20 years now, and I feel right now like I'm the Titanic. I've got water coming in everywhere, and I have had to spend $25,000 just this year for water remediation issues caused by the high tables. My concern on this development is if, are they going to put money in escrow for people like me who have had all these water backup issues, and these other people as well? Are they going to be putting money in some sort of escrow account for us if in fact our tables go up? I mean, like I said, I feel like I'm in the Titanic. I'm bailing
I
water
think you're,
with
I
my
think you're with
knees.
everybody else. I mean, the guys in Meriden are probably suffering the same thing. Everybody's
But it's been like
underwater right
this.
now.
Well, no, but
Doesn't
not
matter
just
who you are,
now.
you're underwater. So
No,
that's-
but for the last 20 years, it's been a problem.
I understand. Okay.
The other issue is I don't feel this development is characteristic of our town at all. There's no charm to it. There's no prettiness to it. And for a person in this age group, I've worked 35 years, 7 days a week. I own a business, and it is a tough, tough business. And I've eaten day-old bread and scrimped and saved to have an affordable retirement, and to go into a community where there's no amenities, no golf course, no swimming pools, no fancy schmancy clubhouses. I mean, I just don't feel it's a good image for the town. And that land is so precious. And that home on that land is one of the best homes in Cheshire, not only in Cheshire, probably in the state. It is a formidable property.
Yeah.
And I feel that that property could be treasured by this community in so many other ways, by using it for maybe renting it out for special events for the town.
Well,
other
it's not ours to
functions.
do that with. It's the property owner. so
Well,
we're
to
not gonna-
somebody to decide perhaps, but much better use than something like this. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Charles Martin, 20 Copper Beach Drive, Cheshire. You've heard all the reasons why this shouldn't go forward from many people this time and at the last meeting as well, so I won't repeat those. I do want to approach it a little bit differently. Mr. Kurtz, who is the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, has excused himself, rightfully so, because he had a conflict of interest. I would venture to say, and I would make the statement, that every member of this board has a conflict of interest because you work with Mr. Kurtz. And every one of you should recuse yourself from this decision because you work with him every day.
Yeah, let's not.
And so you can not do so, but by doing so, it's very inappropriate and unethical that you continue to make this decision when you work with Mr. Kurtz every day, who has such a significant involvement and investment in this decision. That's number one. And
Okay.
you should strongly consider recusing yourself, each and every one of you. Secondly, Mr. Strollo, last time you mentioned that this shouldn't be personal. Do not make this personal. And it shouldn't be made personal attacks on individuals. But understand one thing, this is personal to every person in this room. And that's why you heard it last time
Well,
and this time.
Okay. All right. I don't want the meeting to go this way, and this is
Well,
what,
we
what
do
happened
want the
last
meeting
time.
to go this
Yeah,
way
but what I'm
because
saying
it
is
is
that
personal.
But
And you're not
making
getting that.
you're
You
making
give
a
these
personal attack to
gentlemen-
every single
you
one
give
on
these
the.
gentlemen all the time they need to talk, and then
Yeah.
you give people 3 minutes to make their
I've
arguments.
been very considerate about letting everybody speak. I don't think that I've cut anybody off.
Not yet. Not tonight you didn't. Last time you did.
I cut the meeting at 10 when it
No,
got
you
out of
cut
control.
people off at 3 minutes.
I
Yes, you
gave
did. Check the
people a little
minutes.
bit more.
Check
I
the
gave
minutes
people
of
a little
your
bit
own
more.
meeting.
I'll tell you right now, I've never been a person that did that in all the years I've been on zoning.
Well,
And
you
it-
should
you know,
recheck your minutes then.
Well, like I
because you
said,
missed it.
I
And
think
you
you're-
also missed many of your campaign promises as you ran for this office. So we'll leave that alone for now. A couple of other things. Several members of the board, rightfully so, mentioned who could live at this premises. There's no way you can police who can live in this premises. You can hear lovely construction talk about everything they want to talk about, but there's no way you can police who lives there, and understand that that's a fact. And the last thing, and I picked it up this evening, Mr. Fazone said about I think it was the sewer system, had certain capabilities. And what you're now saying is that you want to take that capability to the maximum of about 4 million gallons a day. I don't think that's good for the community in any way to max out that particular system as well. So thank you.
Okay.
Just a question before you leave. As a member of the board, can you explain to me what my conflict of interest is?
You
if I'm
work
being-
every day with Mr. Kurtz in this. You obviously know him. I watched each and every one of you collaborate between each and every one of you before the meetings. And so clearly you have a I'm speaking. Clearly you have a bias toward one another and a relationship with one another. And if there's an old saying that says if there's an image of improprietyness, then there is a conflict of interest. If there's any question whether there's a conflict, there's a conflict. Therefore, each and every one of you has one.
So who would decide this? If we were somehow to all magically be recused, how would this be decided?
That's for you to figure out. Perhaps you use the alternates. I'm not sure. But clearly you have a relationship with Mr. Kurtz.
Yes, I meet him twice a month right here.
Yep.
And we have a meeting.
Right.
I know nothing
So
else.
you
about
would be, in my opinion,
Am I
you're biased
biased?
toward any decision. And if the board approves this particular, these variances in this subdivision, then the board failed in their job as commissioners and members of this board. Thank you.
Richard Kozachik, Kozaczuk, 301 Talmadge Road. I've been at that address since 1977, and I've seen the Talmadge area more or less change dramatically from cornfields to houses all over the place. So in a way, I'm kind of sorry about seeing that. My main concern is, to make a long story short, is flooding. As of right now, the drainage that comes off from the other side of the road, and as a matter of fact, this last weekend, we had the tropical storm that came through. I have a creek that comes from that area all the way into a pond that goes all the way further down, and it's flooding. Now, I know the engineer here said a couple of times last time about putting in catch basins and whatnot. I'm not sure if that's going to catch it. And if that doesn't catch or if it really creates more flooding, who's responsible? Do I have to go to the town? Do I have to go to their association? What's the story with that? So that's my main question.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Tom Santoro, 150 Talmadge Road, Cheshire. I see this from a bigger picture. To me, the real issue and question is the marketing. I have a contract with the city of Cheshire. I pay taxes, and in return, I get police protection, fire protection, school system, and zoning laws. And when I bought my property, I bought it with existing zoning laws, and I spent a certain amount of money given that those laws existed for and around my property. This particular development will significantly financially damage my property. There is no reason that I have to worry about grandma or snow removal or fire trucks or any of that nonsense. Right now, I should be protected by the zoning laws that exist, and I shouldn't have any worries or concerns about whether there's going to be a 40-person development, a low-income development, retirement development at all. That's the deal that I've made with the city, and I expect the city to respect my rights. Now, I'm very well aware that you guys are faced with difficult decision. The ultimate decision is people have a right to do with their property what they want, and I agree with that. And there is, and Mr. Kurtz does have a right to do what he wants with this property. It's called 16-acre zoning. And my big question is, okay, there's not much I could do about that. That's his right. But why can't I have a great, big, beautiful 16-acre development or like they've got at Castle Rock in Southington for over 55 age people? That would probably increase my property value. I don't know why. Well, I do know why we're looking at the 40 is because we're trying to transfer wealth from the people who live in this neighborhood to this one individual. The more houses he can squeeze onto that property, the more money he makes. We've seen some changes today. I call those gimmies. They were there anyway that we were going to get. Thank you very much. But of course, if you listen real carefully, now I have a bigger house on a smaller lot. That is not appealing. That's actually worse. So I've lived in Houston, Texas. I know what it's like to live in a city where there are no zoning laws. In Houston, it's the opposite from here. In Houston, you never wanted to live near open property. You never wanted to live near a lot because you didn't know what they were going to build next door to you. The gas station, and they did. It was parking lots, whatever it was, and they had the right to do that no matter what development to live in. Cheshire has good laws, okay, and we have a good system, and we want that system to continue. So in my way of thinking, I don't see this as being good from any number of reasons, okay? Other than the fact that Mr. Kurtz wants to do more with his property than he has a right to do. And if to get that right to do more is going to impinge on my rights. So I significantly, my question is, I would like you to consider a much better alternative. If we're so concerned about 55 and older people, that's great. Go to Southington, go to Castle Rock, see what a great job they've done, and put 16 houses in there, okay? That makes, and it makes a lot more sense for Cheshire. The idea is to protect all the people of this town. If we make this change in my backyard, next time it's going to be somebody else's backyard. And before you know it, the whole town suffers because people are kind of wondering what comes next. We don't want that. We're Cheshire, okay? You guys have done a tremendous job throughout the years, making a wonderful community. Let's keep it that way. Thank you very much.
Mark Hall, 140 Talmadge Road, Cheshire. At the last public hearing, I had asked some questions about a number of things, and I wanted to get some answers tonight. I also want to touch on some of the other comments that folks have made. I'm concerned about property value and it fitting the neighborhood too, obviously. I'm also concerned not only about not in my backyard, but I don't want your water in my backyard. And when you look around the neighborhood, these homeowners in this section of town, geologically, we don't have a lot of topsoil before you hit rock, and there's a lot of water. And I bet you the vast majority of the people in this room that have come here concerned tonight have a sump pump in their basement, or like me too. So we're talking about 34 more homes in this area that doesn't have good drainage at all, doesn't have the ability to sustain the groundwater as it is today, never mind the public sewage. And we're talking about 34 more sump pumps, and where's that water going to go? So I look at that and I express that concern, but I also look at what has happened, every time we have a storm, but this week obviously is a fun exception. But that water flows down from the center of Kurtz's property across the Copper Beach open space and into my backyard and down the hill down to Talmadge Road. Some of it goes into the catch basin and through the culvert across the road. And some of it stays in our backyards. It's been leaching out of the hills and onto Talmadge Road this week, not even going into the sink basin. And if the roads and the neighborhood and the wetlands already cannot sustain the amount of moisture that we're getting, and we cover more of that land and create more drainage issues, and the topography, shows that it's going to flow a significant portion of it in that direction, there are a lot of homeowners that are going to have additional impacts to their property value beside the fact that what we consider less than appealing solution has been built in our neighborhood. And so I had asked last time
About the wetlands, I had written it down. You increase the wetlands, that's what I wrote down for you.
and I'd said I wanted to understand how much more water was going to come towards my house, and that hasn't been addressed yet this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
My name is Rick Romley, Roemmele, and I live at 358 Talmadge Road. Been a resident there for about 15 years, been in Cheshire for close to 25 years. I want to thank my fellow residents for bringing up the same concerns that I have, and I am vehemently opposed this entire idea. Thanks. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll keep this brief. I'm Matt Wage, 669 Wallingford Road. I'm the author of that 5-page.
Yes, I
email.
read it. Yes. I
And we
read
also had another 5-pager before that dealing strictly with the wetlands.
Mhm.
My concern, there's a couple of concerns or questions that I'll ask, because I appreciate if you have any questions on me on any of the emails I sent in,
Mhm.
by all means, contact me, email me. I have
Well,
a background in this.
We can't do that. We'd have to do it here.
Agreed.
And then we're hoping that, with staff. and
Well, I'll
stuff,
wait
we're
for, I'm
Yep.
not going to really go into this email.
Okay.
I think Mr. Vazone and Mike Lovely could possibly respond to it first. But one of the problems I think we see is one, we see the house plan D, which is a 3-bedroom. There's no other house plan that's a 2-bedroom. And 3-bedroom is considered as, by CHAFA, family housing. I'd like to see the 2-bedroom house plan, not house plan D with 1 bedroom scratched out and called a den. The regulations require, so we have a perception as a public as to what these things look like. So it's required that we be given the elevations for the houses, because when you look down that driveway to walk from Wallingford Road, you're looking at the sides of those buildings. I also have a certificate in landscape design. I can look at a plan, elevate it, and I get a good concept of what it's going to look like. And when I look at that plan, I see like this great big wall of vinyl, because when you're building this type of residence, your windows on the side of on the sides are minimal. Usually it's just a bathroom window. It's smaller, but it's basically going to be a wall of vinyl. And there's no bush hedge or whatever that can possibly cover that. The other concern I have, it's probably the major one, and hopefully this gets answered, is the wetlands. Because they went through on the wetlands and got the approval prior to bringing this up, there are conditions about that wetlands. I took a physical walk out there, went through what I call the tick trail, because I ended up taking deer ticks off, and looked at those wetlands. And some of the people have concern about how that's draining, because there's one wetlands area that's what's considered an intermittent stream that by definition from the WWA, and I approach this in the documentation, is not documented on that property. So that's going to have an effect. The pushing through of the sewer system, they're going to destroy literally a lot of the area that's responsible for holding some of that water back, especially in the springtime because of vernal pooling and ponds. And you also, if you look at the IWWC minutes and watch their meetings, they actually saw groundwater pooling. In other words, that area up there as a wetlands is retaining some of the water that's coming down onto these properties. If you disrupt that wetlands, you're going to increase the water flow going downhill. Wetlands has a tendency to hold water. That's its function. Those two meadows there that they call preserved meadows are old pastureland or hay fields. In fact, even in the information that I have supplied by Mr. Lovely, or actually Mac Sanford, they have no wildlife value. They have no water retention value. A forested substrate and or let's say a New England meadow would be much better off. But there's no plan at all within this concept of restoration or what they're going to do and maintain that property. The other thing I've been contacting is Ronald Walters with the RWA, because when they put that sewer through, if they can, because we just mentioned about the bedrock, when you look at the plan elevations for the sewer system, the point where and I'm not a great sewer expert, the point where the sewer system meets the access to Charles Drive, and Mr. Quirk on the May 4th IWWC meeting showed houses. There were two on Charles, opposite the Kurtz property, one at the corner of Charles and Sir Walter, and one on Sir Walter, that were all showing sewage problems. The claim was that they would be able to, and he said this in the June 15th meeting or June 14th meeting, and he also said it in the May 4th meeting, that the objective and the reason they were bringing the sewer through Talmadge was to offer relief to those people on Charles Drive. When you look at the elevations for that sewer, and even if you assume that you're going to install sewer pipe at the same elevation or slope as, let's say, a storm drain, which is like between 0.006 and 0.005, it's 5 thousandths of a foot per 5 thousandths of a foot per linear foot. Sewer drain's got to go in a much higher rate, maybe even a tenth or a hundredth of a foot per linear foot. They will not be able to gravity feed sewer systems to Charles Drive at all, maybe 2 houses. It's just an impossibility physically. So that claim that we need to get this sewer system through Talmadge, destroy the wetland, and in the first email I sent on the 2nd of July, received here by the 6th.
I don't know enough about sewer systems to.
Yeah, I'm not an expert either, and I don't pretend to be.
Yeah.
But literally, they're going in to destroy this wetlands to sewer just that development. It's not going to be able to sewer Charles Drive. Their sewer feasibility study was for gravity feed
I know
systems.
we have other commissions for that, so I'm like you said, that would
I
be-
understand that,
yeah.
but the problem is also, and I kind of put the onus on you, and I don't mean to, and I really think you guys, and I've told William this 100 times, you guys have done a great job with this town. I mean, I've lived in Houston, and I know all about that type of thing, and I've lived in 46 out of the 48 contiguous states.
Mhm.
So, and I have construction experience. I have large construction, small construction. You know, I have the experience. But now I forgot where I was going.
Well,
I was going
we've
somewhere. It was
we've
gonna be
got your
good,
letter,
too.
so we're good. We're good. We're good.
I think we're good. If,
Okay,
you know,
I appreciate
please
you. Thank
look
you
at
very
the
much.
Emails that I had, and hopefully, Mr. Pizzone, if you could reply directly to me, I'd be more than happy to work with you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Hi, I'm Chris Plumley, Plumley, 400 Sir Walter Drive in Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410. I'll be much shorter than the last gentleman was. My first question is, it was mentioned in the last meeting that my property is 615 feet from the Kurtz's property, and I'm interested to know how that was measured. Because, you know, we got that first document that was put out, and it did show that we were within 500 feet, so I'm interested to know how that was measured. No, there was one document that we did get. It was a sort of a bad photocopy, but then you had brought up at the meeting that we were not. In fact, my name was the first one mentioned, in the meeting last time, that we were actually 615 feet away. I don't necessarily disagree with the distance, by the way. But go ahead.
You want to address that now?
I had received a letter saying that you were represented by an attorney.
Yeah, Mr. Vazone, we can't hear you. I mean, do you want to wait to address or you
All right,
want to?
I'll wait.
Yeah, let's get through everybody
that's
and
fine.
then,
The second thing I wanted to bring up, Mr. Bowman, you had mentioned at the last meeting about about a 100-year storm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But there was just mention of a 100-year storm.
Yep.
And I was just thinking that for the record, it should be put in there and as to what constitutes a 100-year storm.
Okay.
Because last I checked.
Last week.
I think we've had 3 of them in the last 10 years.
That was actually given to us by the engineer that night.
Yeah.
And I also asked what the design criteria was for a subdivision.
Mhm.
And that's in the record also.
Okay, okay, good. The third thing I had was simply that my wife and I took a drive after the meeting, not right after it, but a day or two later, and we looked at the 2 developments that have been done by Mr. Lovely and the architect here in Southington. And it should be noted that in both cases, those homes, while they're very nice, okay, they both are immediately adjacent to what I would call commercial property, gas stations, fast food restaurants and whatnot. And I don't doubt the market research that the other gentleman, brought in saying that there's a need for this type of housing. But it is painfully obvious to many of us, and I think hopefully some of you, that as nice as a development like this would be, it just doesn't fit on this property. It just doesn't. I've lived here 20 years and it simply doesn't fit there. So that's all I had. Thank you.
thanks, Chris. Thank you.
David Trum, 369 Sir Walter Drive, the proud 43-year owner of a sump pump, which every night I pray that it will work. I'll try to keep this to questions, although you know me from past experience and I have difficulty keeping it to just questions, but I will try. I'll have some comments later. First question. It was pointed out on the map here that there's going to be a berm. You can't hear me? Oh, okay. Oh, geez, come on. Watch it, Mr. Pullman. Right
Very
along
nice.
the front of Wallingford Road, there's going to be a high berm which keeps people on Wallingford Road from seeing what lies beyond. Question, right here, or actually right in here, was the old apron for the Platt Farm Dairy Barn. And all the stuff that used to flow off of that flowed down into a little low area that's now in here, marked by a very large boulder that's right there along Wallingford Road. That would flow under Wallingford Road and make the lot across the street very, very green all the time. What's going to happen to the water that's going to be blocked here? Right now, I understand that when Mr. Kurtz acquired this property in 1987 and landscaped this big lot, the question was, what do I do with the front? Can I let the water go out the front? And the answer was, I guess, yes, because it goes into a couple of catch basins and then goes down the hill to the lovely lady that spoke earlier, and she gets all the runoff. So my question is, if you're going to block this off with a berm, where's all this water going to go? Very simple question. Can you answer that now? Or do you want to
No,
wait until?
we're
you
going
wanna
to
wait
get all
until
the
later?
questions
Okay.
and then they'll
I would-
answer
I would
after
like
that.
very, very specific answer to that, because the question is, if it's coming off this road, okay, and it's going south, that means it's going down that pipe and it's going into her yard and the wetlands.
Okay.
Okay, and that whole idea wasn't very well designed in the first place, but when this house across the street was developed, it was make the water go away, nothing to see here, folks. Can't do that anymore. Second question. back in here, well, let me go back to this point. Can you point out exactly where on this green map the water comes this way or the water goes that way? You hear a lot about, oh, well, the water's going to go this way, the water's going to go that way. Is all of this going to come this way? It can't, because the topography, very clearly seen on the GIS, that's the channel going that way. And it's going into Mr. Hall's backyard. So the question is, where exactly is the break point? Where's the continental divide with some of the water going this way and some of the water going that way? Where exactly is that? And what are you doing to mitigate it? Along the lines of mitigation, third question, down on Talmadge Road, I think there's a guy that deals in landscape pavers. You notice this house there on Talmadge Road? I don't know who the gentleman is, but he has a pond. The Logue family used to live there. And that pond was fed by a stream that came down the hill from up near where Mr. Hall lives. And the stream was very active.
So,
when it
so what's
rained
the
hard.
third question?
So the question is, yes, my question is, that pond has been the subject of IWWC action over the last couple of months. My question is, has anything been coordinated with IWWC as to what's happening with that pond and the extra flow that's going to be coming off here? Because it is going to be coming off. There's going to be extra. How much? I don't know, but there's going to be extra. That water, how do you know it's coming off? Because this swale on your map, okay, shows the topography swale. I mean, it's been there since the glaciers. And this leads right down around, back through the open space of the Copper Beach development and over to where Mr. Hall is on the famous Dawson Drive, for those of you that know where that is. I would like to know, where's that water going and what are you doing about that pond? And if does it have any impact? Okay,
Okay.
because that water.
So I got your first question
heading
is,
north. So that's that third question. Okay.
okay.
First question is, where's this water going and what are you going to do about it? Second
Off
question
the road,
is,
off the roadway,
this-
the berm
where-
off the roadway.
yeah,
I got
where's
the
this
water
water
going
in the
into her
back?
house and I got the pond at
Yeah,
IWWC,
where's the
right?
water in the back and what are you doing about that pond? 'Cause that's
Okay,
gonna
what's the
receive
fourth
some of the
question?
water. Yeah.
Okay, can I
Third-
ask-
third-
just to
third que-
clarify, just on one of those questions, I'm sorry. When you said the water's going to go into her yard, are you referring to
We're
Ms.
referring-
Clark on 635?
Yeah, Mrs.
Did I say
Clark.
his yard, Mr. Hall's yard. Oh, you mean her yard?
Yeah, you said.
Yes,
across the
Going to
berm.
Clark's
I'm
yard.
sorry. Right
Okay, thank you.
here.
I just wanted to make sure I had that
Yeah.
right.
That's the water off the road.
Yeah, she's way down off the south of
Mhm.
Wallingford Road.
Thank you.
Okay, 6669? No, whatever.
Okay.
Whatever road. Okay.
So what's number 4?
Next question, okay? Where's all this water that's going to come down across here, okay? And let's talk about the hay fields and let's talk about some of the discussion that's already been had. In the fine print of the plan, it says that when the water gets a little bit high here, you should chain down the walkway, which is going to be made out of Trex or wood or whatever. But this beautiful little path here to the open space that's sort of open, okay? It says you're going to have to chain that down. It's in the fine print. Look at it. If there's that much water anticipated coming out of this detention pond and wherever else, what are you doing about the pipe on Talmadge Road? And there's a gentleman, where is he? Who's on Talmadge? No. Mr. Kozuk, maybe he left, I don't know, but he lives right down here, okay? What are you going to do with the pipe on Talmadge Road? Because you're going to get a lot more water coming off of here. Water's got to go someplace, folks. Where's this water going? And what are they doing about it to take care of it? Or are we going to find that the town of Cheshire is going to have to put in a bigger pipe in a couple of years because there's a problem there, okay? Had quite enough of that. Another question. Let me see. Copper Beach, I had these all written down.
So you're at 4?
I think that is it for now, but we'll always be back. But, you know,
Okay.
as long as it basically,
Thank
it's
you.
oh, no, wait a minute. There's one other thing. This all along here, I'm trying to do this by north, south, east, west quadrants. This area is the top of a plateau and the water goes in 4 different directions. What are you doing along the boundary line here to meet the zoning guidelines, 21-6, 25- whatever, that says you've got to manage the water along the property line with other people's property, which is Mr. Smith's and a whole bunch of other folks on Charles Drive. I know you're going to put up trees, and other question is, are these going to be deer-proof trees? Very important question. Are these going to be deer-proof trees? Okay, I guess she's saying the answer is yes. You're not going to have a fence, but what are you going to do to keep any of this water going east? So it's very simple. South, north, west, east. Where's the water coming from and where's it going? A picture would be
Okay,
nice.
name and address for the record, please. No, I
One more,
already
I'm
have.
sorry,
strong-
one more.
No,
Very important.
Dave,
Can't
let
this
him speak. I mean, you spoke long enough.
Okay.
He can speak, okay? Thank you.
Yeah, just wait.
My name is James Fanning. I live at 747 Wallingford Road since 1997. I just have a general question about the committee and its policy on variance. Is there a policy for granting variance, or are there requirements needed to get a variance, or does just the right person have to ask the question to the right people?
Hi.
Good evening. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. No. Good evening, Robert Wachowski, WICHOWSKI with Bendett and McHugh, also living at 685 Wallingford Road.
Yeah.
Sure.
What?
Sure. Robert Wachowski. Sure.
W-A.
WICHOWSKI. Robert with Bendett, BENDETT, and McHugh, MCHUGH, in Farmington, and I also live at 685 Wallingford Road. Before I get into my questions, and I'm going to reserve my comments for later, but with this storm, I live a couple doors down from Ms. Clark, and my driveway was completely flooded because it's a downward sloping driveway, and I've never gotten water in my basement except for this storm, so obviously the prospect of funneling more water onto the street and down my driveway is troublesome. But my 2 questions, I would ask the applicant how they are in compliance with zoning regulation 43.4.4F, which states that a need exists in the community for a different type of housing unit than is allowed under the base zone. These houses, 1,700 square feet, 3 bedrooms, can easily be put on R40 zoning. There is no need for an ARPD to increase the density of the houses there. So under the zoning regulations, in order to prove the variance for an ARPD, the applicant has to show that, and I don't believe they have, but I would invite the applicant to say how they have done that. I'd further invite the applicant to show how they're in compliance with 43.4.4G, which states that the proposed development will not create an undue concentration of PRDs, particularly ARPDs, when there is a very large ARPD less than 1 mile away from the proposed site. And the commission currently has before it a proposal which has been approved for about 100 units in the north end of town. So it seems like these 2 requirements, I would ask that the applicant provide how they are meeting those 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Bob Geis at 860 Wallingford Highway. I'm here for traffic, not for water. The old farmers knew how to build houses. I don't know who did any kind of traffic study, but that road is terrible.
Well, I've
It
stopped
takes you-
him from speaking because I let everybody go. But as soon as you're done, he's going to get up and talk.
Who?
The traffic study guy.
Oh, all right.
He's coming. So,
Yeah, well,
He's been waiting for you all night.
my question is, how many builders or contractors are on the board? I know you are. No.
Yeah. I don't think anybody right
No?
now. There's no builders at all. Well, yeah. You're retired now. I don't think there's any builders on now.
Because this traffic with our house is getting out of hand. And we had the police there one day and he said, if you don't like the traffic, move. Who the hell is the people you got working?
I know that, I mean, Bill had left, but I know that I after the last meeting, I called the police station and I actually had them, they had that trailer there and it was taking times and stuff like that. And I did research it for you because I was concerned. And I have to find that paperwork, but I have it here somewhere. And I did look into it. And you are right. There's one person who drove 85 miles an hour on
yeah.
Wallingford Road. One person.
Not one.
They
A
no,
lot
no,
of
no. They and there was one person, but mostly the average speed. I can't remember the number. It wasn't what was it? 36. It was because I mean I think people are slowing down, but you know somebody did go by at 85, so I'll give you that.
And the trucks, 5:30 in the morning, you get logging trucks going down the road. They're overweight, over width.
I
logs sticking out the back.
don't think. I mean, I do think that probably trucks do go down that road, but it's not a good bypass road for anybody to go. And I think that some of them are
They go
servicing.
to the dump. Coleman dump.
Well, he's
Yeah.
taking trees, so that's kind of what that is.
Yeah.
But okay, but I'm gonna let you wait for the traffic study guy for you. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you. I'll let you go last. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were waiting.
Thanks. Grace Bassett, 31 Carriage Drive.
Yep.
Correct. Thank you. I just have a few questions. Are there any other developments in Cheshire like this? I know you mentioned
There-
Southington that they've built.
There's
but-
other 55 and over developments in Cheshire. Yes.
Okay, but like this?
There's never been that I know of a proposal for a one level development, meaning that it. No, there's cluster zoning. There's like, I mean, if you go down the street here, there's a 55 and over right at Stonegate, right? There's Stonegate. If you go out Wallingford Road, there's what's the name of the one out there? Cheshire Crossing. I mean, there are 55 and overs, yes. Richmond,
Okay.
Glen, you know,
Right.
I mean, we're all getting older. We need places to live. You know what I mean? That's
They-
what it's
No,
like,
I
you know.
understand that, but what I'd like to know is how many acres is just this area where the houses are? How
Ooh.
many acres is that?
Is the concentration? Okay,
Yeah.
just, we'll write that down and then he'll address everything after, okay? That's what we're trying to do. I want to get the traffic study guy in here. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm going to stop it at her, but I'm going to have the traffic study guy because he's been waiting and I want to get him up. I'm sorry. Yes, you have to, after the traffic study guy is done.
Okay, so my question is that concentration of houses, do we have that anywhere else in Cheshire? I read that it would be
yes.
40 houses in 10 acres.
But there's,
So is
it's
that-
reduction to 34 now. It's not 40 houses anymore. It's reduction.
Right, but they're bigger
Yes.
houses. Okay.
Yeah.
So are we starting a precedence by approving this zone change?
I don't see how we're starting a precedence with, there's not that much land left in Cheshire to build on. So that's
Okay,
what I'm saying. So I mean, like, I
so
don't
my-
think that there's, you know, like, you know, I mean, what I don't know, understand what you're saying, but I guess, no.
Well, you know, with the housing rates, the way they are now, my house is 3,100 square feet on an acre of land.
Yes.
Can I demolish my house and put 4 houses on that 1 acre of land? This,
I'm trying-
I mean,
I'm understanding.
originally it
I'm
was
understanding what you're
40
saying.
houses on 10 acres.
Mhm.
So can I hey, I could use the money. I'm close to
Yeah.
retiring.
Yeah, I see.
Why
what you're saying.
can't I demolish my house on Carriage Drive? Can I put 4 houses on there,
I don't have that answer. Sorry.
right?
Okay.
I mean, you're putting such a big concentration in such a small area. I do want to listen also to the traffic. I live on Carriage. My family and I, my husband and I and our 4 kids, we walk to the center of town almost every day. We bike to the linear trail. We go down Wallingford Road.
Yes.
We will not, I mean, the traffic that'll happen because of this, and I wasn't even thinking the trucks of, I forget who mentioned it, of just the construction,
Mhm.
that road's not going to be able to take that. Okay, so basically, there's no other development that is as concentrated as this in Cheshire.
I don't know if 55 and yeah, I mean, there's other concentrated developments. Yes.
And not in a residential area.
Okay.
You know-
This is too open. This is too open. Okay. We're going to go with the podium and you have to ask the question. We're not going to talk out. And I'm going to have the traffic study come up and answer the questions he has to answer. Traffic study guy? He's on. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Scott Hesketh. I'm a licensed engineer, state of Connecticut, with the firm of F.A. Hesketh and Associates. Yes, Hesketh. And my colleague appeared at the last public hearing and presented a detailed presentation of the traffic information. But in response to some comments by the public and by the commission, we have gone out and done some additional counts and presented a report dated July 9th, 2021, which I hope is part of the record this evening. We did a couple things in our updated traffic study. As you know, the proposed site plan has been reduced from 40 units to 34 units. So we did calculate a new trip generation for the proposed development. In our original report, we had presented traffic volumes for a 40-unit single-family development, which generated 33 trips during the morning peak hour and 42 trips in the afternoon peak hour. The proposed development is being reduced to 34 units. So based on the single-family trip generation, the morning peak hour would be 29 trips and the afternoon would be 36 trips. And that was considering these as single-family units. As age-restricted units, the 34 proposed units would generate 18 trips during the morning peak hour and 21 trips during the afternoon peak hour.
Excuse me. Please let him speak. Thank you.
As presented also earlier, the development could be developed as a 16-lot single-family development. And a 16-lot single-family development would generate approximately 16 trips during the morning peak hour and 17 trips during the afternoon peak hour. So if this commission sees fit to approve this particular plan, we would have on average an additional 2 trips in this development during the morning peak hour and an average of 4 additional trips during the afternoon peak hour based on the 34 units. For a capacity standpoint and for representation before this commission, we presented analysis both of a age-restricted development and a single-family development with 34 units. In case you say, that guy's nuts, he doesn't know what he's talking about, the trip generation is going to be a heck of a lot more than he's presented. I wanted to present you that analysis so you know what the impacts of this proposed development would be on the local roadway network. I'll get to that in just a moment.
So that's a 34 lot regular housing. Is that what you're saying?
Regular single-family development, yes, detached
Okay.
housing. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So in addition, because our traffic report was based on 2019 CONDOT information, and because we prepared the report during the year 2020 during the COVID crisis, it was not appropriate at that time to go out and do additional counts because the traffic volumes would have been 20 to 25% less on average from the 2019 data. Subsequently, we've had the opportunity to go out and install new traffic volume counters to measure the traffic volumes subsequent to the last public hearing. We installed a counter on Wallingford Road. We did that one twice. We installed a counter earlier at the end of June to the first day of July, before the 4th of July weekend. Unfortunately, one of the tubes came up, so it was not an accurate count. We did present the information in the report, which the commission has, so they can see the numbers. But we went out and replaced that counter between July 7th and July 9th and did some additional counts. We did 48 hours worth of counts, so two 24-hour periods. The roadway had an average of 1,932 trips during the
That's
a daily. That's
both
a daily
sides?
volume. Two sides, two directional count. 1,932 vehicles on a daily basis.
in a day. Okay.
Correct. During the morning peak hour, we had a peak hour volume of 132 vehicles during the 7 o'clock hour. And during
Has
the
everybody heard what he's saying right now? You have almost 2,000 cars that go down your road right now. No, that's schools. That's. Oh no, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry, but I just want. Okay. I just want. I just want to make sure everybody's listening. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let them go. I'm sorry. I didn't think they heard you. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
You had to rile people up.
I'm
You're right
sorry.
in the middle of the presentation. During the afternoon peak hour, we measured 181 trips during the 3 o'clock hour during our counts. In addition, we installed a counter on Talmadge Road because a lot of the people that came out to the public hearing last time indicated that much of the traffic would likely use Talmadge Road to the north of Wallingford Road. So that counter was in place between June 29th and July 1st. We had in excess of 48 hours worth of data. Talmadge Road itself has an average daily traffic volume of 1,909 vehicles.
Wow. Okay.
Morning peak hour of 157 vehicles, and an afternoon peak hour of 183 vehicles. In addition, we had one of our associates conduct manual turning movement counts at the intersection of Wallingford Road, Talmadge Road, and Tamarack during the morning and afternoon peak commuter periods to measure the traffic volumes passing through the intersection and to get the directional distribution of traffic through that intersection. And then we used that information, plus the automated counts that we had done, to get background traffic volume data for the intersection. We conducted a background capacity analysis at the intersection. And we also conducted combined traffic analysis at the intersection under both the age-restricted development of 34 units and a single-family detached housing development of 34 units. Furthermore, we assume that 100% of the site traffic destined to and from this development would pass through that intersection, meaning none of it would go the other direction down Wallingford Road into the town of Wallingford. Everything would come this direction. About as conservative analysis as I can come up with to represent the information here. Based on that analysis, all approaches to that intersection would operate at level service A or B during peak hours, meaning that the average vehicular delays are 15 seconds or less per vehicle on average through that intersection. And that's true under the background conditions. It's true under the combined traffic volume conditions as an age-restricted development and the combined traffic volume conditions of a single-family detached housing development, assuming 100% of our traffic went through that intersection during peak hours. Now, we were provided the speed data and count data that you referred to earlier, Mr. Commissioner. I believe that data was obtained by the police department here in town.
Yes.
My understanding is they had one of those signs up which says
Yes.
speed limit's 35. This is your speed.
Yeah.
And it flashes at you if you're going too fast. And it gives you a smiley face if you're going under the speed limit.
Yes.
And my understanding is that it records the speed that it, or records the message that it tells everybody based on the speed that they're going. And it says and it gives you the information. So like you had indicated, the 85th percentile speed, which is what we typically measure in traffic engineering, indicated that the speed was 35.63 miles per hour. The 85th percentile speed is the speed at which 15% of the vehicles are traveling faster than that speed, and 85% are traveling less than that speed. And that's typically what we design for. And the roadway is posted at 25 miles per hour. Typically, 85th percentile speeds are in the range of 8 to 10 miles an hour above posted. So we're in that range of what one would expect to see for an 85th percentile speed. Now, the police department data also recorded 1,066 vehicles on a daily basis, but that's an eastbound direction number only, because that's the only information that they were interested in.
So if you doubled it, it would be there.
If you double it, it'd be about 2,000,
Yeah.
which coincides
Yes.
roughly with the traffic volumes, which our office
Yes.
just recorded on Wallingford Road at that approximate location. Now, our counter was also set up to do speed. We measured a 85th percentile speed of 38 miles an hour in the eastbound direction. For some reason, we had 21 miles per hour in the westbound direction. I don't believe that to be true. We had a little malfunction with the recording or something in that, but we presented the data in our report. Not trying to hide anything from you. It's in the report which we presented to you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Now, we've reviewed the available intersection site distance at our proposed site driveway location. We believe we have in excess of 425 feet in each direction, which would meet the CONDOT requirement for an approach speed of 38 miles per hour. So safe and efficient movements can be made out of our particular site driveway. So we've done some additional counts. We believe that the count data which we've observed is consistent with both the police department data. It's consistent with the 2019 CONDOT traffic volume data, in which our original report was based upon. The turning movement counts at the intersection of Wallingford Road, Talmadge Road, and Tamarack, and the traffic analysis which we've completed indicates that we have exceptional levels of service at that particular location. We're projecting minimal traffic volumes from this proposed development in the range of 18 to 21 peak hour trips, which is a 2-directional trip. And if traffic splits from our site driveway and goes 50% in each direction, we're looking at an increase of 5 to 10 trips on any section of roadway in any one direction of travel, which is one vehicle every 6 minutes in the worst case scenario, one vehicle every 20 minutes in the better case scenario. Not a significant volume of traffic. And these volumes are similar to the traffic volumes which could be anticipated from a 16-lot subdivision on this particular property. So if this commission should decide to approve this application, the traffic impacts from this proposed development would be minor, to say the least, and the levels of service of the roadway are capable of accommodating that volume of traffic under either development scenario.
Okay, I know some of the people in the public had announced, what's the difference in traffic when the school is in? Is it up, down? I mean, that I would think that you would be the person to ask. So I'm going to put this on you.
Well, during a school period, the closer you are to a school, the more you would expect the traffic volumes to increase.
Yep.
Obviously, as you get farther away, most towns provide school buses, but a lot of parents, for some reason, insist on driving their children to
Because your kids
school
are
every
always
morning.
late. That's why.
Let me see. Obviously, our counts were done during July as the public hearing happened to
Was
be
the
at the end of June.
2019 count done during school
I'm
time?
taking a look right now to see if that particular count was done during that time. The 2019 CONDOT count was conducted June 18th to June 20th,
No, it'd be-
which is
be
right
coming
on
up,
the
yeah,
edge of whether or
right
not
edge.
school was going on
Okay.
that particular time.
But
So,
like in your professional opinion, what do you believe the percentage of increase of traffic would be during school? 10%, 15%?
Well, I mean-
Does that sound like a lot? I mean,
how far are we to the school? How many students at the school?
well,
Are they
I
driving
mean,
themselves? Are the parents driving them?
I know. Okay. But I mean, in your professional opinion, what do you feel?
If I'm 50 feet away from the school driveway, it's going to be a big, it's going to be a big
No,
number.
it's
If-
not. There's
if
the
we-
high school, there's another school. I mean, like, let's say 3 schools within mileage. You have 3 schools. So,
There'd probably be a slight increase, 5 to 10%
okay,
at
that's
most.
all I wanted to know. That's
That's a
number.
guess, but again, the levels of
Okay.
service that we observed were A's and B's. If we counted during school time and the traffic volumes were 10% higher, I would expect A's and B's at that intersection as well. Perhaps a level of service C on the side street approaches, but looking at the numbers I've seen, I
Okay.
highly doubt it. But
Any other commission members have any questions? Mr. Sullivan?
So the peak hour trip was 18 and 21. What's the total for the day? A 24-hour period or whatever?
$34 units of adult housing would be about 218 trips on a daily basis, and single-family residential would be 385.
Thank you.
Was that residential 16 houses or residential 34? Are you comparing apples to oranges?
No, those are both based on a 34-unit count, 16-unit count. Generally speaking, a single-family residential development has about 1 trip per unit during a peak hour and about 10 trips per unit on a daily basis. Single-family development, because typically you've got 2 adults, a number of kids, 1 adult, driving soccer practice to school, back and forth, and the like. The age-restricted developments, because they are one age restricted. You don't have children, so that you have fewer trips. And people of 55 and older have the ability to either work or not work. Sometimes they have a second home somewhere else. They're not there all the time. So even the peak hour volumes are in the range of 0.5 to 0.6 per unit as opposed to 1. That's why the age restricted development numbers are in the range of 50 to 60% of the single family development. Sure.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll let the public come
At this
up and
point, I'll
ask you a
take a
couple of
seat
questions.
and take some notes.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing. Ask your question, and then they'll be able to answer after. We're just gonna get questions, okay? She's first. Mr. Martin, she's before you.
She told me to go.
I want her to go next. She waited.
Hi, Sherry Sheehan, 345 Charles Drive. Sorry, Sherry Sheehan, 345 Charles Drive. My first question, and respectfully, I know that a traffic study was just recently done. When my husband was driving home from driving back to work one afternoon, and I believe it was on July 7th, he said only one side was working. So it was not accurately
He already
measuring.
said that. He already said that.
And also, okay, so if it notes that, also, I question the accuracy of a traffic study that's being done during the summer, which we already brought up school, but there's also a lot of vacations. There are some families on Charles Drive that are on vacationing right now and unable to make it to the meeting. So there's a lot of people that are on vacation. It's really not a accurate study being done in July.
Mrs. Sheehan, also, there was a police study at the same, that
Yes,
box.
I understand
And
that,
that
yep.
counted also. And
Okay,
and
so they
that-
were counting but when was that done? I'm not sure.
That was done in June. at
That
the
was done
beginning of June.
before the end of the school year.
Yes.
I think there was
So
not a
that was counting
clarification of
cars
that.
also. So like I said, it's pretty close on the number. So I
Okay.
think I'm pretty confident
Okay.
that 2000 is pretty close.
Okay, so
Okay.
I commute to East Haven every morning. I leave
Mhm.
my house about 7 o'clock. And I'm not sure you're accounting for extra, every time there's houses of this caliber or any homes being built, you only have 1 lane south and 1 lane north once you hit Route 10. I don't know if anyone ever accounts for that, but that is a big deal whenever you're building, and now you're building 34 here. They're building on Coleman Road. They're building here, there on farmland. And that accounts for a lot more traffic coming in and out. You have one lane in and one lane out. Okay, so that is a huge thing. It's not just Wallingford Road, which is deeply impacted. It's not just Talmadge. They're spilling out somewhere and they're going to New Haven. Some people are commuting to Hartford. That should be taken into account every time a lot of homes are being built. Number two, I know everyone's bringing up the water, and we have also a septic system, and also a well, and water. I mean, we have to pump it out all the time. And of course, this storm was out of the ordinary. But I also am wondering, with the soil disturbance of building and cutting down trees, what will happen to our septic and well systems? Okay, so that's a big question. It's really a big disturbance. Okay. My third thing, hopefully I could remember, is yes, I can because I'm looking at the map right now. It is not aesthetically pleasing to look at in our backyard. And I know someone has already said, if it was in your backyard, would you want that? We moved into a quiet neighborhood years and years ago, raised our boys there. It was wonderful. It is not going to be that way anymore. And to compare it to Cheshire Crossing, if you go to Cheshire Crossing, it's away. It does not abut anyone. There are beautiful trees all around it. It's almost in a community of its own. That is comparing apples and oranges. This is in a residential properties where we have all enjoyed for many years, and it's being taken away. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Charles Martin, 20 Copper Beach Drive, Cheshire. I have one question. Who paid for the traffic commission, the study?
Who paid for the traffic? The applicant paid for the traffic commission, but
So, the applicant,
but also the police department also did a study also.
correct.
Which is
but-
paid by the town.
So the applicant paid for it. Doesn't that tell us a lot about what the study said? That if it were a true, hang on, if it were a true study, wouldn't the commission do their own study to determine what the real traffic pattern
Any
is?
and all applicants do their own traffic study, and then they have people that are certified.
Certainly,
study.
the applicant's study would be biased.
Well, if we have something to go against it with the traffic study from the police department,
Well, I mean,
that's going that they're
I heard
equal.
I
That's
heard
why
the police department supplemented their study. I didn't hear results from the police department.
the results are the same. That's what that's what I was asking the questions. A lot of the speed, the amount of vehicles, because it's going one way, right? And they had a problem with their ticker, and then they did it again. But what we've found out with the data between their traffic study and the police department, about 2,000 vehicles go down Wallingford Road.
Yes.
And some go at a high rate of speed,
Yeah.
but it's 85 percentile does 35 miles an hour. 85%. 15% of the people get the thumbs down. They're going too fast. So that's what we know, not just because of their traffic study, because the police department also.
Thank you.
So, okay, thank you. Well, I'm sorry. We can't.
That's what I was gonna-
All right. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Michelle Fredericks again, 36 Carroll Drive.
Yes.
First of all, I forgot how much traffic he said was in 2019 on the roads for developments like that. That's number one. Number two, and I was going to address that. I mean, I myself am guilty. I know the sign is there. I slow down. And usually I go really slow on that street because everybody's walking. But if you see one of the police signs, you know what's there, you're going to slow down immediately. And number two, coming out of my street, trying to get out onto 68, as of right now, is a living nightmare. It's almost impossible. So I have to turn right to go turn into another street, to go turn left if I'm going that way, because you cannot get out there. And according to the traffic study, RC only guesstimating it's going to be one car per house and only one person in that house is going to be working. I know my friends are working up until age 70 because they can't afford to live without having two incomes coming in. So is it only one person, one car per house? Because that's what the study seems like it's based on. That's all I have to say. And I want to thank you for what you do, and I hope you do the right thing.
Mr. Disco. You got something though? You have something?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know that there's any basis for saying that studies that we receive from applicants are necessarily biased because they're given by the applicants. These are professionals giving their opinion based on data that they develop through reports and that are developed nationwide that they take from and utilize in their reports. So I don't know that I don't think it's correct to say that they're biased. If you think they're incorrect, you have the opportunity to, and many people have, say you think they're wrong. And you've done that, and we listen to that and take that into consideration. But I don't know that I don't accept the fact that they're biased simply because they come from the applicant.
Well, I don't accept the fact that you say they're not biased. They were hired by the applicant. Clearly, they were intended to provide a study that showed there's not a traffic impact.
But there may not be a traffic impact. There may not be a traffic impact, and they may be accurately showing that.
Grace Bassett, 31 Carriage Drive. How do they come up with their numbers? Can they explain that? And I know Mr. Strollo mentioned that the police came up with the same amount of numbers, but that's just cars going back and forth right now. That's not taking into consideration when we have 34 houses there, how much more traffic there will be. How do you come up with those numbers? Like,
Yeah, yes, he could explain how they take the number.
or we
The
can wait
traffic
till
study.
after.
Well, I'll let him answer that question right now if he could. Just, could you explain how the machine works or simply?
Again, for the record, Scott Hesketh. The traffic volume counts, we installed a pneumatic tube, which has two rubber hoses that go across the street. And every time a car goes over it, like at the gas station, a pump of air goes up, hits a diaphragm, creates an electrical charge, and counts the electrical charge by axle, divides the number of axles by 2 to give us the volume of traffic. Every time you pull into a gas station, you used to run over the tube and
Ding,
you hear the
ding.
ding ding because the air pulses are going in and ringing the bell. It's the same thing here, only we use an electrical charge and the computer counts the number of vehicles. The tubes are spaced a certain distance apart, so the counter can also tell the time it takes to hit one tube and then the other tube, and it knows which direction the vehicle is going. If it hits tube A and then tube B, it went in one direction. If it hit tube B and then tube A and it went in the other direction, and it counts the time between successive hits. It knows that the tubes are 2 feet apart, and if it took 1/18 of a second, it knows that's 36.5 miles per hour. Computer can calculate that type of thing. So that's how we do our counts. Again, I believe the police station had a radar gun and the radar gun would shoot the distance with the light emitting diodes and measure the time, successive time impulses, and knows how fast the car is coming towards or away from it. Yes, I agree. If you put up one of those traffic volume signs, and people will tend to see it and say, hey, I'm going to slow down a little bit. But let me just say that the police department's machine was up for an awful long time, if I understand their data correctly. According to the summary of the data I read, I think the thing was up from, let's see, January, February, March, April 26th to June 14th. So the police department data counted an awful lot of data while school was in session. And I think that their eastbound volumes and our eastbound volumes on a daily basis were very similar. And I think they were pretty similar on an hourly basis as well. So I believe that that the traffic volume data is correct. Now, how do we project traffic volume data? We use the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation report. Traffic engineers go out to developments, they set counters, or they count vehicles personally as they go in and out. They send the data into the Institute of Transportation Engineers. They put it in their computer programs, come up with regression equations. So the data that we present in our report is based on existing operating facilities throughout the country and traffic volume counts that engineers have done and submitted the data. For residential developments and commercial retail developments, we have an extensive database. So those are typically the most accurate types of traffic volume projections we can do. There are thousands of reports for single-family detached housing developments. There are thousands of data points for retail developments. Not so many for age-restricted, slightly less. We're in a few hundred types of that. But based on the operating characteristics of other developments which have been open and operating for a long time, we can calculate based on the number of units, based on the number of people that live there, based on the number of cars that they're projected to own. You can do the trip generation numbers. We've based ours on the number of units because that's one thing that we know. We don't know if they're going to own 6 cars or 50 cars in development. Tough to project. Now, I didn't say that there'll only be one person living in these developments. I said in age-restricted developments, we tend to have less traffic because many people are over the age of 55. Many more people over 55 are retired than under 55 are retired. I wish I was one of the under 55s. I haven't gotten there yet. There's a lot of widows, widowers. There's people that own houses here who also have a house in Florida. So 6 months out of the year, they're not here. They're not generating traffic. That's why the traffic volume projections for this type of development are a lot less than the single-family detached housing developments, because you tend to have married couples, lots of kids. You know, people, they get out of college, they buy an apartment. They get married, they have one kid, they move to a single-family development. After they've had their kids move out, they move into a retirement community. And when they're retired, one person dies, so the traffic volumes fluctuate for the types of units that we have. And that's what I tried to imply with the report. I hope that hits the basics for all traffic generation numbers and such.
Thank
But
you.
I'll be taking notes.
Thank you. Okay.
I assume most of you guys have heard the joke where the businessman is asking his accountant, how much money did I make last year? The accountant tells him, what do you want the number to be? And the accountant can make that number almost anything he wants, totally legally.
Sir. Yeah, give your
Oh,
name
I'm
and address
sorry,
for
I'm
the
sorry.
record before you
Ah.
got to your joke.
Some people, huh? Tom Santoro,
Santor.
150 Talmadge Road, Cheshire. You don't need the zip code, do you?
No.
Okay. Sorry. The same thing holds true for consultants.
Yeah, but are you trying to say the traffic study is not,
I'm trying to say any study that anybody does. In
even the police
support-
department?
In support of a proposal. Police department just gave you a particular set of numbers on a particular day, okay? Which I can go out there, you can have them do another study on another day and get a totally different answer. But that's just at one point of the study. The study does not make the projections that we're talking about. I don't care what's there right now. I'm concerned about the projections that are going to be there, the difference, the delta. So I don't care if one person a day is on that street right now. We're all concerned about the change. We know what life is there now. That's the starting point.
Yes.
The police department cannot project where we're going to be, and they did not. They did not. They just gave you data where we are today. I'm questioning all of these studies, just like anybody else would question a study who puts any proposal together. And by the way, it's not necessarily nefarious. You know, 3 consultants can put together 3 different studies, come up with 3 different answers, and they're all correct.
But you said before that you, and a binding contract, that you're looking to your government to basically
Exactly.
hold us
And-
accountable. right?
Exactly.
And what our concern is safety, right? Safety.
That's right.
What's going to be the lowest volume on the road, right?
Right.
Because we have to consider that. So we have to look to traffic safety. And the police department also did that other thing, which was great that
Absolutely.
we had that.
That just
And that's
tells
a
me
lit-
where we are today.
Yes.
I'm not
And so
interested
we
where
have
we are today.
we have a baseline.
I'm not interested where we are today. I'm interested where we're going. I'm interested on the change of where we're going to go.
Okay.
Okay. The people here testified where we are today.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're going to change that. That's the issue.
And this body right here is involved in the change, and we have to do what's right by you.
That's right.
So,
and you have to-
we have to do what's safe for the community.
Exactly. And
So
you-
this traffic study, right, which we've listened to and all of us have heard, and we've comparable to the police department.
No,
and-
no, you didn't compare a traffic study. Or I should say a proposal, you compared specific data, okay, about traffic on a particular road. That study that made no projection of the future. We're all concerned about the projections to the future. That's what we're concerned about. Okay?
Yeah.
The police department did not make a projection.
They made a traffic,
You-
it's not yeah, the engineer just made a projection. That's, like I said, I think we're missing.
Well, I mean, I appreciate what you had said earlier, okay? You're getting hit with engineers and with studies and all this kind of thing. You guys aren't the experts. You have to listen to that. And that's the point I think you're trying to make. You're trying to evaluate that.
Yes.
Okay? You can't go out and hire your own studies to do everything unless you have specific questions that some people have asked that really require them to be addressed, like some of the gentlemen here did, which really now you're obligated to do that.
Yeah.
Other than that, you can't go through and perform your own, otherwise you'd have a multi-million-dollar budget and et cetera, et cetera. You can't do that. Okay? The best you can do is question and use some common sense to do it, which I know you've got.
And that's what I'm trying to tell you.
But let me help you out.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? The marketing study. Okay? I have a 4,000 square foot house in this area on a 2.5 acres.
Mhm.
If I simply extrapolate the $459,000 that they're projecting to sell for these homes at 1,750 square feet, my house is worth $1.1 million. It's not worth $1.1 million. It's worth a lot less than that, even in today's market. And I wonder if the people who did this study are the same ones who did the study for the mall at the 691 exchange, which thank God we never got.
Mhm.
We heard about that, right?
I've been here since then.
Yeah, I know. Always since that. The traffic study, in my opinion, and I know my friend over there, an engineer, would agree with me, because I had many engineers who worked with me. You can tweak a lot of different things and come up with totally different answers, and they're all correct.
Mhm.
So be careful. I'll just give you some common sense. 2 people, 40 houses, 2 people, all right, 36, 72 people. If they all work, they're going to work in the morning, approximately, that's 70 trips. I didn't hear 70 trips in the morning. I didn't hear 70 trips coming home. They don't all work. I don't work. I'm retired. You know how many trips back and forth my wife and I make to the stores? A lot more than 2 a day.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's
But I
something
think we
wrong
did
with
ask
those.
that
There's
question
something
for-
wrong with those
We did get a
numbers.
total trip. If you listen, we did get a total trip for the
200
whole,
change for the day.
for 200 for the day. We did get that number. So we did ask that question.
Okay, all right. I thought I heard that the maximum at the rush hour in the morning was
Well,
26.
that's just at those specific times.
And
you know.
that's why I asked that
That's why,
question.
like I said, we've been at,
Okay, so 200 trips for 80 people? So you
Yeah.
got 200 trips for 80 people, that's each person makes 2 trips a day on average.
Mhm.
Is that what your family does?
I never
2
leave.
trips a day?
Okay.
Really? Each person?
We're
Really?
gonna let one more guy.
I think it's 4. One final thing, the marketing, the thing, what was the other one? Oh, the water. I lived next to Mr. Hall.
Mhm.
If I was going to do something on my property and I was going to make changes that would affect somehow or even endanger the water impact to his property, and someone gave me a list of all the issues, okay, that I heard today, I'd be scared out of my mind to do these things.
Yeah.
I mean, why would I take that chance?
I noted with Mr. Hall before.
Okay.
So,
Thank you
okay,
very much
thank
for
you.
allowing me the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Geis, you heard the traffic study. We're waiting for you. You're the toll
Guys,
collector.
I still live on Wallingford Highway.
Yes.
With me, it's not water, because the old people, the old farmers knew how to build a house. We don't get water
Mhm.
in the 1700s. But the traffic is brutal. Things fall off my walls. They slide off the bureaus with these trucks going down with the Jake brakes. And I think he knows that. He knows all the all the trucks. Yeah, Coleman, you were there.
Coleman? Oh, I don't think so.
Not you. Yeah, him. You were there. We voted for you. You know, we voted you guys in to take care of the taxpayers, not the builders. I mean, why do we have to come here and argue that don't build this thing? Shouldn't have to. But my point still is the traffic and the trucks.
And I
Now
think
what
we're-
happens? He
we're
didn't
addressing
figure
it.
that. Did you?
I think,
count
I think you've got the
trucks?
police department's attention. They did put a thing right on your road near you. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that didn't stop
know.
them.
And they're out there. I see
We're
them.
right at the bottom of that hill. And there isn't a car that goes after that sign that goes by our house less than 50, 60 miles an hour. And I'll rent
A gun.
a gun to show you that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're brutal. It's really bad. We can't go, I can't go to my mailbox. We can't back out of our driveway, which we don't back out anyway.
Well,
Without sitting there for 5 minutes watching cars go back and forth.
I think the traffic on Wallingford Road has been addressed, and I think that I think we're good now. I mean, as far as knowing what we got, our baseline.
Yeah, and I'd like to see the police report on this
I-
button he has.
I think it's available. It's
Is it?
posted. It's posted.
Where?
Okay.
It
All right.
is?
Thank you, Ms. Geis.
All right.
Thank you. All right. I'm just telling everybody I'm going to shut this place down at 10. So we got 7 minutes. If you want to ask one question, and I need to have the applicant go. I know you've been on for a while. If you can make it quick,
Real quick.
real quick.
Matt Wage, 669 Wallingford Road. I remembered what I wanted to ask before,
Okay.
and that's if there's a boring done to determine where the bedrock is, hydrology study, because everybody seems, to be concerned with the groundwater and where that's going through, an environmental study. And I also wanted to thank you, Sean, for doing that traffic study.
Yep.
But there is one issue that I'm going to just kind of mention. I live at, 669 right across from Kurtz's place,
Mhm.
and cell service there is terrible. And one night, this little short story, less than 3 minutes.
I was going to say, if you want a cell tower, I can't do that.
I
Okay.
understand that. But what happens is people come up, the 85 miles an hour down by 850 Wallingford Road is insane.
Yeah, it is.
But they come up the hill through the little turns. So they put the little sign up, that says there's turns, and they accelerate through there. One night, a guy, because he finally got cell service and things starts beeping, hit the gas because he was in a rush because he had to go slow in the turns and drove through the telephone pole right across the street from me, literally through it, snapped it. It was hanging from the wires, and he drove into almost into Kurtz's property
Well,
because they accelerate through that area. And I'll volunteer my property. If your police department wants to set up one of those signs right there, that's the acceleration zone. They come out of the turns.
well, hopefully
going-
people start slowing down.
Well,
Okay.
that'd
Is
be
it,
nice if they
you,
slowed down.
Anthony, you
done.
have anything left that you have to address the commission? I know we're leaving the public hearing open until the 20. Could we give her the microphone then? You don't have to get up, man. We'll get you a microphone. Will it go that far? Yeah. I don't know. There you go.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh. And there he is right there. Don't trip the lawyer.
When people were talking about the traffic on.
Just your name and
Judy
address for the record.
Kozachuk- Judy Kozachuk. Kozachuk. Kozoczuk. Judy. 301 Talmadge Road, Cheshire. Yeah. She could hear me.
It ends with you, Judy.
Yeah, I know. One morning, which my newspaper would come early, like 6:30, and I would be up at that hour, and I would walk down my driveway, which is a long driveway, to get the newspaper. And off to my left, coming out of the woods, was a deer, and she was going at a pretty good rate, heading towards Talmadge Road. Well, right behind her was 4 or 5 more deer, and they were going to go just right out on that road. And again, you're getting the start of business traffic. So I did walk out into the middle of the road and hold up my hands. I imagine there was a lot of people swearing at me. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And then they saw what
deer.
went past. So you will not only have people to worry about, you have our little animal buddies.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. Be real quick.
Jessica Sumala, 1003 Wallingford Road. To me, Sumala. To me, a lot of this stuff really doesn't even matter. For me, the bottom line is it's R40 zoning, and that's it. I'm in R80. I can't divide my land, and I don't think because you have money and power that you should be able to divide your land and make a profit off of our neighborhood. And that's it. For me, it's R40 zoning, and that's all that matters right now. That's it. 1 house per acre, 16 houses. I'm fine with that. But 40 is crazy. And I mean, if that's what's going to happen, then I want to be able to divide my land. And when I'm ready to retire, I'll build 4 houses on my 2 acres and I'll leave Cheshire and retire somewhere else. It's just ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Who wants to finish? Huh? What was that? No, that was the next meeting. Okay, 10 o'clock, we're done. So you want to get up?
I'll wait.
Huh? You wait?
I'll wait. Yeah, I think.
Because there's a lot of questions here and I
I
don't
think
want to get
there-
into it right now. I
think-
think that it's time to
I
go.
think the questions are, a lot of them are about the water.
Yes,
And a lot of them are about the traffic.
yes.
And so and that's, you know,
Yes, instead of, okay.
Well,
That's why we're leaving
all
it
right,
10.
well, let's talk about the zoning. All
Well,
right?
I don't-
We have a regulation here that we're applying under. This type of housing can be built in the half-acre zone, can be built in that's the R20, the R40, and the R80.
Yes,
And if you build in the R80, you get a density bonus. Any zone, you can get a density bonus for building these. The Plan of Conservation and Development talks about compact development. This is a perfect example. 16 houses gives you how many acres of open space?
0.
6.1 acres.
Hold on, let him speak. You guys have all spoken.
6 acres of open space. This gives you 13. Gives you 13. But that's compact development. And
Yes.
that's what the Plan of Conservation and Development suggests.
Okay. Like I said, we're gonna cut it. We're gonna shut it down. So I mean,
All right.
yeah. Oh, Mr. Tully, there's one last question, and then we're gonna close the hearing. for tonight. Yeah,
So
go
just
ahead.
following up something I said earlier about the 9/12 mandatory action date. No, I'm just following up on a question I asked earlier about the 9/12 mandatory action date. So that's a Sunday. Our meeting's on the 13th.
I understand that. You're within your legal boundaries right now in terms of setting, of completing the hearing, and you'll have sufficient time when the hearing concludes to make your decisions. So your mandatory action date never ends on a meeting night. Sometimes it'll end on a Tuesday,
I
sometimes
just
on
want to make sure
Friday,
that we're
sometimes
good
on-
because it's 12th versus
Yeah.
the 13th. So
Yeah, but you're within the time allowed for making decisions.
if Attorney Vizon wants to say something, I can see him from
Well,
there.
you're trying to coax something out of me. And the applicant will be cooperative in giving extensions. All right? Because we have asked for extensions.
Okay. Get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Do we have a motion to adjourn? We Need a motion?
Continue the public hearing.
Yeah, we're gonna continue the meeting. Motion to continue the meeting? The application is continued until the 26th of July. Yes. We said that in the beginning.
Motion.
Not closing it.
No, we're continuing the public hearing. Motion to continue the public hearing. Yes. Yeah. Motion to adjourn this public hearing tonight, and it'll be continued on the 26th. So I need a motion. Motion by Mr. Caderas, second by Mr. Bowman. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Oh, my God. Could everybody kind of go out the back so we could finish the rest of our meeting quick? Oh, my God. Huh? I'd like to open up the regular meeting for planning and zoning for Monday, July 12th.
This is worse than the North.
We're gonna do the minutes. Where the hell is it?
Motion to approve the minutes for both. Second.
Can everybody go out of council chambers, please, if you're gonna speak? You're gonna be talking to each other, please. Could everybody exit council chambers, please?
You can ask them to be quiet, but you can't ask them to exit.
Well, I mean, they're loud.
Okay, so we had the motion and the second, Sean.
Back outside.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, but on the minutes for the public hearing, we have to change the mantz. I mean, okay. MANTZ as in zebra, mantz. Okay, motion for approving the minutes, right?
I make the
Did-
motion to approve the minutes.
Okay,
With
and
the-
you're gonna second, and they
Oh,
second over here?
sorry.
Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying an aye. Oh, with the, okay. All right, moving on to unfinished business, we're gonna continue the town of Cheshire till the next thing, that's gonna be July 26th. July 26th. And then 2, 3, and 4 is gonna be continued for a vote at the next meeting? Yes, the public hearing is closed, but we're not gonna vote on that until the next meeting, I believe. Yes. Vote. And that's gonna be open until 7:26. No new business. So could I get a motion to adjourn? We're gonna hold off until the next meeting. That's, we're deciding to do that.
The only thing for new business, just a reminder, we have a meeting on Wednesday night at 7 PM versus Zoom.
It's with Mary Jane.
It's legal.
Okay, no talking about that. Okay. So motion adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. We're done.